So today, Donald Stojack is going to talk with Charlie Wilkins. And Charlie is, when I first met him, I was trying to figure this guy out. I mean, he's done stand-up comedy, he's done skiing, he likes living out in the middle of nowhere. But he's got a real good sense of nutrition. And as interesting as that is, that's a loaded topic because people can get in the fistfights over nutrition. I am amazed at the process. And what I want to do today with Charlie's help, and he's been very agreeable to this, is I don't need him to tell us what to do. More, I think it comes to how do we make it's more the why. Would you say that, Charlie? So why do something or not, or how do you, there's so many fads out there and ideas, eat meat, don't eat meat, eat vegetables, don't eat vegetables,
the raw food diet that I can get into as well.
Sleep, don't sleep, take a cold shower, don't take a cold shower, jump in a lake, don't jump in a lake. You know what I mean? Exercise, don't exercise. We hear it all. I mean, a dear friend of mine, she lived, I think she made it almost to 100. Her husband made it over 100. But I mean, when I met Mabel, this nice little old lady, I mean, she smoked like a chimney. I mean, it's like, you know what I mean? And every day a shot of whiskey, and she made it to 98, so it's like, well, what was it? Do what she did. I don't know. So
right.
How do we figure out?
She'd still be alive if she didn't do that, though.
Yeah, and so how do we wade through all of that stuff and the conflicting information? And is there one way, or is there multiple ways? Does it come down to what works, or
if only I had all the answers. Well, let me just give you a little background on myself. And again, I wish I could make more of these calls. I have a conflict. It just totally bums me out. But I do catch the recordings here and there. And I really appreciate all of you guys who have shared on the calls and just have learned a lot from a lot of you out there. So really appreciate that. So my background is, I grew up in Chicago, right? And it was always the urban background. It was the urban playground. And I got into acting early on, and specifically improvisation, right? So Donald says stand up, and it's close, but it's a totally different beast, right? So stand up, right? You're there by yourself and you've written the material, so it better be good. That's all I like to say to stand-ups. You've had the time to think it out. So with improvisation, you go up there with, from 2 people to maybe 10 or 12, and you literally have nothing, no script, no anything. And you get a suggestion from the audience of like a line of poetry or a song lyric or something. And you come out and we create scenes, and they are character based. So it's not the, I think a lot of people are familiar with the whose line is it anyway, right? On TV, where it's like, and I don't want to do this to you guys with my earphones, but like, I'm on a helicopter, and they're pounding their chest to replicate the helicopter, right? And they're totally genius. And don't get me wrong, they're super talented folks, right? But we go out there with nothing. And, that challenge you to start to think on your feet like you've never had before. Now, of course, this might be like freaking people out a little bit, even talking about it. It's like someone giving a speech, right? No one likes to speak in public, right? And that improvisation really taught my brain to be very observational. And so that's how I grew up, is observing. I'm I think a phenomenal observer. And that's what kind of led me into my health journey. So while, we're in the green room in the back about to go on do our show, and, the host is getting the crowd all riled up and we're clapping, and like the expectations are high, because I'm gonna toot my horn real quick, and I promise this might be the only time I do it. But I was on one of the most competitive stages in Chicago for improvisation. So very cutthroat, very, if your name is on the list, amazing, you continue on. If it's not, goodbye, great to meet you. Find another theater, right, to perform at. And so I loved that environment of like, there was always someone who was supposedly wanting your position. And so you had to constantly, week after week, get after it, make each other look like geniuses. And I mean, I coached it, I taught it. And that was always my advice to newer improvisers: make each other look like geniuses. Don't worry about yourself. Just make each other look good. That's all, right? So quick tangent on that. So that's me tooting my horn. So it was very competitive, and we got to be one of the main stage teams, groups, right, that would perform Fridays and Saturdays, right? So that was like the main prime time slot. We're talking, people from Saturday Night Live coming in and looking for people to come on to that show. I performed with people who next week were on Saturday Night Live. It was just like, right? I mean, that's the industry, right? Just like to me, musicians' life story, right? It's all of a sudden they crack that record, they get the agent, all of a sudden they're blowing up, they're on the radio, whatever, right? So kind of a similar, and that's who I got along with in college too, because we both knew we were going to start off in this wonderful professional life very broke, right? We knew we were going to have a lot of money. So we knew we just had to go after it with our passion. So getting back to the health journey here, while I was observing and looking around, of course, on stage, paying attention to what was being said, this, that, and other thing, the storylines being brought up, the different characters, we would always surround that suggestion we would have to get. So that song lyric, it's basically a Seinfeld episode, right? Where it would kind of affect each other's scenes in some way or another. There would be some circular connection there. But so one day while I'm in the green room and I have my mason jar of green smoothie, right? And I had another guy in my team who came in with his Taco Bell. And again, you might be triggered throughout this, so I apologize up front, but I don't apologize because I'm unapologetic about my health and the health of others. It's just, we're at a time right now where we need to double down. We need to double down on that health. So I'm in the green room. He brings in the Taco Bell and he looks at me drinking my green smoothie. And he's like, "What the hell are you eating? Like, what are you doing? That looks absolutely disgusting." And as he's biting into his taco and whatnot, I just right away, we're the quick thinkers supposed, right? I'm like, you're eating cat food, right? So and he's like, "Whatever, you're full of shit," right? That whole thing, like, this tastes good going down. You just keep drinking that green slime or whatever you got going, right? We always give each other, crap back and forth. That's what we do. And I think I was primed for improvisation because I had an older brother and a younger brother. So I got it from both ends and I had to defend myself like from both ends, right? So I was a prime candidate for improvisation and just surviving out there. Right? You had to know supposedly everything anyone brought up, any kind of, abstracted this or that about the economy, about politics, about some celebrity doing whatever. You had to be so convincing and so committed that what you were saying was true, even if it wasn't. Right? So you had to sell yourself out there. Okay. So my health journey was seeing these guys, I'm in my early 20s. And seeing them through the years, as well as just my family, society. I'm in my 20s. I'm still figuring it out. I'm still, throwing the kitchen sink into my smoothie, right? Everything I can get my hands on, right? So I was an early adapter of the smoothie game, right? So to me, it came down to observations like, okay, what is happening to my friends? My friends are getting sick. My uncle, all of a sudden he's got cancer. My friend, all of a sudden he's diabetic. This other person, right? There was a lot of illness starting early. Again, I'm 22, 23, right? And it just kind of shook me, right? Just like anything, in high school, I lost some friends along the way through accidents. That shook me as well. I think we've all gone through those hardships that kind of woke us up, right? Now, I was, I think, fortunate enough to be observant and understand, like, well, I know what it feels like to feel like crap, like hungover or didn't get enough sleep or whatever that is, or going through a breakup or losing someone, whatever it is, that hardship, as opposed to someone getting a total health scare, right? Oh no, I went to my doctor. All of a sudden, they're telling me I have stage 3, this or that, right? And that's when it could be a blessing in disguise where, oh gosh, apparently I'm not doing something right here. For someone to get diagnosed with cancer, something along the lines went wrong. And it wasn't just last week or the year before. That has been going on for a very long time for a tumor to grow to become that size, right? There has to be kind of these habits that we get into that aren't serving us, right? So as I'm observing this, I'm getting more and more my acting careers going. And then my interest in health and herbalism and just supplementation and just lifestyle is going parallel with that, right? And again, as an actor, you are trained to, and a lot of people, I was in college and I did the theater thing, right? I was a theater nerd, but I also wasn't the nerd who could like just say some lyrics from a play or do this. I wasn't like a musical theater nerd. There's a difference, people. I just wanted to make sure everyone knows that there's a difference. But I loved acting. I loved getting after it. And we were taught, hey, if you want to continue, you got to take care of your voice. You got to take care of your body, right? There's no just getting 3, 4, 5 hours of sleep, drinking all night, whatever. And again, I've had my time. Don't get me wrong. I've made those wonderfully poor decisions along the way. But I've observed myself and how I felt the next day. I'm like, wow, that didn't really work out that way. I have a show tonight. My voice doesn't feel so great. I don't feel so well. I got to start changing things up. I got to start paying attention to what I'm eating. There needs to be a change here. And I was I was all in, because as soon as I got into herbalism, and again, I don't have family all of a sudden who, told me about this wonderful thing called herbalism or supplementation, or, you should get 7, 8, maybe 9 hours of sleep a night, right? I think a lot of us have learned to do the right things on our own through observation or, doing the wrong things and understanding this ain't working for me. I got to start figuring this out my own. Now, bless the hearts of the kids who grew up with like the naturopathic type parents and whatnot. They grew up with a really strong constitution, right, to be able to do that. So as my health journey went, I got more and more passionate about health. And of course, then people started asking me, like, what the heck are you doing? What's going on? I'm still in my mid-20s, right? So it's not like all of a sudden, wow, you look really young. I was already very young, right? But what got me into herbalism was seeing friends go downhill quickly, right? That's what really, like, wow, I really have to double down. And that passion almost, and as today, it definitely overtook the acting, even though I still get my fix every now and then to get up on stage. And still, I did it, I don't know, not too long ago in Chicago. I have a friend there who owns a theater, so I'm still able to do that. And so with herbalism, just to give you some context, there's so many different, herbal systems out there, right? There's the European, Russian, North American. You have in India with the Ayurvedic and in Asia. And so what resonated with me was Taoist Chinese tonic herbalism. So very more specific. I still love my, I grew up a garden of holy basil and tulsi, right? That's in India there, where it's just, they serve holy basil when you walk into a house in India because it calms people down. What a wonderful way to start interacting with someone who comes into your home, or just in general. Here is a cup of holy basil tea. Now let's all relax and maybe talk about politics, but in a respectful manner, whatever that is, right? So growing up in North America, as you guys can relate, apparently there's no class unless we really seek it out of that health class, right? What was my health class in high school? It was the gym teacher talking about, you know, sex, this and that and the other thing, and so awkwardly, right? Like he was still figuring it out. You know, so to really understand your own health and whatnot, you kind of have to go down that rabbit hole and really start to care about how you're feeling on the day to day, like how your fundamentals. Are you sleeping enough? How's your eating? How's your moving? Right? How's your focusing? How's your energy? So again, what resonated with me was Chinese tonic herbalism. And just to give you a quick overview, because a lot of people are not, of course, familiar with this herbal system, but is one of the oldest, if not the oldest, that we know of. Easily over 5,000 years old. So that resonated with me as well. This is not just anecdotal. People have been practicing this for thousands of years. So it's just odd to me to even say 1,000 years ago, people were taking the same herbs that I am today, right? Maybe in different forms, but still maybe in a tincture, right? Where you're extracting everything out of that plant through alcohol, through glycerin, through just a hot water extraction as well. So just to explain real quick about the Chinese tonic herbalism kind of health philosophy, right? Just to give you a little context, because this is kind of how I base my health off of and the people that I work with, and to kind of dial in those fundamentals, right? So there's an analogy that herbalists use in this regard a lot, and it works well. It's just imagine a candle, right? Maybe you've been to a church where you see those huge cathedral-like candles, or just a smaller candle that you own yourself. So Chinese health philosophy goes to three treasures, as they're called, three treasures. And it's called Jing, Qi, which most people are familiar with, Qi, and Shen, right? So Jing, now we're talking about the candle. Jing is the quality of that candle, the wax, right? That is literally when the sperm meets the egg, and we're talking conception, that is when the Jing is born. That is your genetic potential of that individual, right? So that is the quality of the wax, quality of the candle, right? Now this is to your bones, to your hormones, to how you handle stress, right? To how you adapt to stress. And then on top, of course, you have that flame of that candle, and that is the qi, right? That is the energy that we draw from each day. Our qi is what we extract from food, right? The energy we extract from food each day. And this is that wick, right? Wick is that food. And this is really important because it's the food that we extract, the energy we extract, that's how clean that candle burns, right? If you're eating what I like to call, and I've heard it before, so I can't take credit, but I loved it. It's just called non-foods. Literally foods that look like foods, but they really, when you break them down, they're really just all kind of formed in a lab to look like food. It mimics real food. It tastes like real food, but once it gets into you, your body doesn't see it as food. It starts to then express itself, I don't know, with inflammation, allergies, whatever you want to label it as. It's just a non-food that your body has a hard time processing. So the qi, again, is the candle. I mean, the jing is the candle. The qi is the flame, right? Now there's shen. Shen is the spiritual, emotional aspect of that person. Shen is the brightness of that candle. It's how that candle shines, really. And it's the most important of those three treasures. Again, Jing, Qi, and Shen. Shen is the most important because it's really our purpose here. It's how bright we're shining as an individual, the health path that we're on. the purpose, the elderly wisdom that we're able to bestow, right? I look at a lot of people who, they're older, okay, but they haven't learned a lot. So we just call them olders, not elders. So there are a lot of olders out there who, at one time or another, they just decided, hey, I'm retiring from learning, right? And to me, if you're not learning, you're dying, okay? Retirement. I love the word retirement. It's almost like, I'm going to stop getting after my purpose. I'm going to stop going after what interests me. I'm just going to go on a cruise, right? I'm going to go on a cruise. And when I come back, I'm going to tell people about that cruise. I'm going to go on another cruise. Okay. But what are you learning? Hopefully you're learning from those cultures, right? But so I love to talk to people who have just such rich wisdom. It's, like Donald, for instance. I love talking to Donald. Donald it's just nonstop nuggets, right? And you have to pick them up. I'm like, slow down, man. I got to write this down. So going back to Jing, Qi, and Shen, right? This is what I base my health off of. This is the Taoist health philosophy that's been going on now 5,000 years. And it's originally from the philosopher Lao Tzu, who a lot of people may have heard of, right? It's what's the wonderful one that everyone knows? Every journey begins with one step, or every, right? Mm-hmm. Lao Tzu. And he wrote that first book on Taoism. So this has been going on for such a long time. And so once you have that Jing, Qi, and Shen kind of dialed in, but also understanding it to the point where, oh, my Qi, I don't have the energy that I need to today. And what's wonderful is once you get to understand the tonics, the actual herbs themselves, you know what to then give yourself. Again, if you subscribe to a certain diet, and I don't think there's a perfect diet. I mean, my goodness. To me, it's all, is that food clean? Is it a clean source of where you're getting it from, right? I don't care if you're a hardcore vegan, if you're all paleo or you're carnivore, just eating meat, right? Doing your thing. Now I've gone through, I was a raw foodist back in the day. I would just eat raw food, folks. So in Chicago, I don't know if you've heard, but it does tend to get a little chilly there. So eating just cold raw foods, that was an interesting time. And just socially was really isolating, right? It's like I was so dogmatic. Again, we can get so dogmatic about our health that you will start sacrificing your own health just to prove to someone else, or to believe in such dogma and such religion of someone's ideal diet, right? Where no, it's just like, apes ate the, raw foods and the bonobos, and right, it's a Garden of Eden, and we just walk around and we pick the fruits and the veggies, and they're all there for us. We don't have to cook things. That's for the barbarian, Neanderthal, right? Just the ideologies that are out there is absolutely amazing. Now I've come to for a long time now, I should say. It's not like yesterday I started the raw food thing, but I've come to the perfect diet for myself. It's called the omnivore diet. Anyone ever heard of the omnivore diet? Where, you eat a little bit of plants, a little bit of fruit, a little bit of meat, a little protein. It's basically a balanced diet. It's opposed to being vegan. And again, I can make fun of vegans all day because I was one, and I understand the ideology behind it. And again, it works for people. It does. But we all have, going back to that Jing, Qi, and Shen, Jing is truly your core constitution, your life force. So we all have our different constitutions, right? I could do better with more protein. Someone else could do better with less protein. It's understanding where you're at with your health, not looking at a YouTube video or listening to someone and being like, you know what, I think you should go on a 14-day juice fast. That's going to be good for you. That's a pretty extreme fast. Again, if you're just eating kind of the mainstream diet and all of a sudden going on 14-day juice fast, you are in for an interesting ride, my friend. It's called what's the Herxheimer, where you're detoxing so fast that you will make yourself sick and it will be a miserable time. Now, if you are getting good sleep, you're getting the sunshine, you're getting out there in your bare feet and you're grounding. Anyone heard of earthing? Anyone heard of earthing here or grounding, right? It is the most beautiful thing, right? I always compare it to people who come back from vacation, right? They have that vacation glow, right? And why is that? Why do you think that is? Sure, there's less stress, they're not working, but some people do work on their vacations, right? Some people can't get away from it. But usually when you're on vacation, you're in some natural environment. You're near water, you're getting into the water. You're maybe more out in the woods. Let's say you're down in Costa Rica, right? You're in those beautiful wilderness, and your feet a lot of times touch right on the ground because it's warm enough outside, right? Maybe you're at some all-inclusive place down in Cancun or whatever. You're walking on the beach, you're walking on the wood path that they have, and you are getting flooded with electrons right through your body that wonderful Mama Earth provides us. And guess what? That stagnation, all that stress is very much released, okay, that we build up in our wonderful technological environments here, right? Where we're constantly in front of the screen. So real quick before I forget, I wanted to tell people about the ultradian rhythm break. And so this is something that I set my alarm. I set my alarm to every 90 minutes. If I'm working hardcore in front of my screen, recording this or on the phone with a client or recording a video or something, at that 90 minutes, I am outside without a phone. My feet are on the ground, and I'm just letting my thoughts release, letting just my thoughts go. Maybe there's something I'm working on my mind and it kind of works itself out. But I grow a garden. Again, I'm on 1/10 of an acre, okay? But I grow so much food, sometimes I can't get through it, okay? So I create my own little jungle out there. It's my own little oasis. I go out there and I've made many hummingbird friends, okay? And that to me is just pure therapy, to go out to your garden and just watch a bee pollinate a flower. There is nothing more magical than watching just nature do its thing, right? Or watching the water, the waves come in, or just hearing the waves. So do yourself a solid instead of trying to just go, 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 go. Definitely take that ultradian, as it's called, ultradian rhythm break, as in you're getting those rhythms back to recharge your brain, because again, you're trying to use so much energy just to get these going through these different issues within your job or your business, or you're dealing with a client who's going through something that you're really having a hard time with, or maybe you're butting heads with them, or whatever the case is. You need to take those breaks. We were not meant to just stare at the screen, at the phone. And again, when you go outside, you're not taking that phone, right? I know it's tempting. Oh, that's not a break to just scroll through the emails and whatnot, right? But that's a long version, I guess, of kind of how I came up to where I am now, is that Chinese health philosophy, those three treasures, which is Jing, Qi, and Shen. That's how I base my health off of. And again, there are specific tonics, herbs for that. Some that are just Qi tonics that give you that immediate energy. Some are there more that Jing tonics that give you that more energy to just strengthen those hormones, those bones, your vitality. And again, it's adaptability. I mean, what is life, right? It's daily stressors. There's no perfection. There's no, check that off. Now I don't have any more problems. Guess what? The phone rings, or you read something on the news that really irks you, or just totally just blindsides you, right? our day is non-stop stressors. And it's how
You know,
we adapt to them.
as I'm listening through this,
Yeah.
again, people always tap me for marketing stuff and sales
Right.
help, things like that. And it's just trying to figure out, that path when you start working with a client. Ultimately, you're doing the same thing that we do in marketing, where so many times people come, well, what's the magic formula? Or what's the magic sales funnel or marketing funnel or the
Right.
magic email or anything like that. And it's the same thing with your health. There is no magic. It is paying, like you're saying, paying attention. If you do something, how does that make you feel? Okay.
Right.
What is that manifesting and stuff? I'm imagining when you work with a client, a lot of what you're doing is getting them to pay attention to themselves. So where maybe they were, it was kind of peripherally there, but you're basically getting more of a magnifying glass on to say, hey, that doesn't need to be your normal.
Right.
Would you say so?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And again, Donald, going back to, again, a lot of people are looking for, we are a silver bullet, I guess, silver pill
Magic
society.
beans. Yeah.
Yeah. Society. Right. I feel this way.
I just can't blend every green ingredient up in a jar and drink that. And that's all I need to worry about.
That's called indigestion. Right. And I've done that.
And so
in
your example about, the guy with Taco Bell, in other words, you're kind of making the same mistake. In other words, he's doing the drive-through, but you weren't as well in a different way. And so many times I think we're trying to, find that one thing. It ain't it. It ain't it. And it is sometimes 2 steps forward and a step back, or 3 steps back, and run at it again.
Yes.
Type of a thing. But
and again, let me talk to just real quick being more aware of, how long ago so many people were their own doctors, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this was not thousands of years ago.
Mm-mm.
This is 100 years ago, even before that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then when you're talking about the lady, and I had that neighbor too, and she was amazing. She made sauerkraut. She was like 90. She made sauerkraut. Sure,
Mm-hmm.
her home smelled horrible, but
Mm-hmm.
bless her heart, she was like, here, have some sauerkraut. I was 8. I'm like, what is that? Get that away from me. But I would try it, and it was sour. And I was like, ooh, my body is really like magnetized towards this thing because it's full of probiotics. My stomach all of a sudden is really happy. I'm on like a sauerkraut high right here, right? And she grew up in Slovenia, right? And of course, in Europe and whatnot, that generational wisdom knowledge is passed down so much more than I think in North America.
I grew up in a Eastern European culture, that had migrated, and we made our own sauerkraut as a kid. It's just that everybody did that,
right?
And the closer it got to Christmas, the better it got,
Yes, and that's why I love. I'll tell you what, I am more of a culinary herbalist than an herbalist who, and again, I do this too, but I don't have a storefront. I'm not trying to sell tinctures and salves and different dried herbs and whatnot. And that's a beautiful business model, and maybe one day, but I really don't have, I think, the patience to do that. So again, my background too, as I got into health, these herbs, these tonic herbs, these Chinese tonic herbs that just filled me up, just brimming with energy. And that's why, I don't know if you've talked to me before, if you were in the kind of mastermind, I'm always usually in a jovial mood because I'm usually just feeling so good. It's not like I'm just, high dosing off of medicinal mushrooms, although that is part of my health philosophy and is part of the Chinese health philosophy from, reishi mushroom. Everyone's probably heard of a reishi mushroom, or in Chinese, right? Lingji. There's actually a museum. This is how I love reishi so much. There's a museum of just reishi in Indonesia. It's like a private museum, but it's strictly just about the reishi mushroom, Lingji. And that's how much history is there. That is thousands and thousands of years. To a museum for a mushroom? some Westerner, a museum for a mushroom. Are you kidding?
So I'm kind of
You know?
curious what, when somebody comes to you and they become aware of your skill set and stuff like that, and let's say they're on a fairly good health journey. I mean, in other words, that they're not stuck in the backup at McDonald's. They've actually sought out some good ingredients. They've tried that. Where do you start with them? What do you do first? How do
Right.
we how do we get that pathway going? I mean, do you dump it all on them at once, or is
Yeah.
there something that's like your favorite thing to start with? Or
Right. Yeah, I definitely stay away from the overwhelm. Here, let me give you, 30 herbs I think you should start to get into, right? That, of course, would be the wrong way to do it. And again, to go back really quick before I get off on another tangent, and thanks for reeling me back in. So when I say culinary herbalist, so I used to be a chocolatier. Okay. So I would make chocolate.
pay attention, Morris.
I would make
There's a
chocolate.
silver lining in there somewhere.
And again, my name's Charlie, so that was inevitable, right? Of course, Charlie in the Chocolate Factory. Amazing story there. And oh my gosh, so many rabbit holes of that story. But so I made chocolate. I would do these fairs and homestead type events. And I eventually befriended a lady she was a great chef. And she started chefing in this kombucha brewery. Now we're getting hip, folks, right? We're getting to kombuchas, we're getting sauerkrauts, right? Stay with me, right? Everyone knows kombucha. And again, that's, thousands of years, people making kombuchas. And anyway, tangent. So she asked me to sell my chocolate in there. So I was a chocolatier of a kombucha brewery, right? And so the reason I got into making chocolate was because, of course, I love chocolate. And again, real chocolate here, people. We're talking at least 80% cacao. Okay. And I'll be the chocolate snob here. Milk chocolate is not real chocolate. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry if I triggered someone. Milk chocolate is not real chocolate. Sorry.
So Morris and I will sneak off separately from you, Charlie, and indulge in our milk chocolate once in a while.
No, I know. Again, so I would make this chocolate, but the reason why I loved chocolate is because I loved flavor profiles. I loved so it was another vehicle for me to get herbs into myself. So I used chocolate as a vehicle to get other herbs into me. So I would make Chinese tonic herbal chocolate. So, and I used to sell that, like I said, at fairs and whatnot. And again, that was my kombucha brewery. And I would also here's one of my more popular that wasn't a bar. It was a chocolate covered almond butter stuffed Turkish fig. Okay. And that was just like, it was hard making them and not eating them. I'll tell you that much. But at a certain time, I was like, you know what? I got to get these to the people. I can't eat all these. But so making chocolate bars, and I was so concerned about the ingredients. There was never going to be a gotcha. I was the person who always did the gotcha, right? It's, I support my farmers, my local farmers, as much as I can, because I only have 1/10 of an acre here. I only grow so much food, but we grow a good amount, right? But I don't have animals. I don't have chickens yet. I don't have bees yet. Oh, one day. But so what I would say to that person is to start incorporating herbs, into your food. Okay, so everyone's heard of bone broth, right? We've been making that, since we've been, we've had fire, basically.
My next meal after this call is going to be immersed in bone broth.
Yeah, bone broth, my goodness. If you could make your own, it's absolutely amazing because, again, use the herbs, the rosemary, the dill, the thyme, whatever that you have growing in your own garden. But if you can't, definitely buy it from the store. Make sure it's grass-fed, all of that, of course, right? Because, again, you're extracting the minerals out of those bones. You want them to be grass-fed, grass-finished too, if you can find it. But so let's say you're making a bone broth. Let's say you're in a quick, you don't have time. And every meal, I get it. We go. I get it. we don't have time to make all these luxurious meals. Let's just say you're making your own bone broth, or let's say you're opening up a can of soup. And again, I'm not trying to, I've done it many a time, right? But how I'm going to upgrade that can of soup, that can of, or that thing of bone broth, I'm going to be heating that up on my stove. And guess what I'm going to be adding to that bone broth? I'm going to be adding herbs. I'm going to be adding dried herbs. I'll be adding seaweed. I know it sounds terrible, but you're extracting the minerals out of that seaweed. I'm adding herbs like astragalus. If you haven't heard of astragalus, just a beautiful, just clean energy herb where it's the root we're talking about, the astragalus root. And it is definitely a chi tonic where it gives you that nice immediate energy. And again, this isn't Red Bull fake energy. Again, what we call that in Chinese tonic herbalism is false fire. Okay. So it gives you this sense of security that you have this energy, but guess what? You're about to crash. Okay. So then you're going to chase it with another maybe cup of coffee. And again, I know that's going to trigger people. I get it with coffee. I'm not saying coffee's bad, but if you're getting, there you go. If you're making coffee, and again, I don't do coffee. I do like this. This is a chocolate, I would say chocolate pumpkin latte-ish thing, but it's a medicinal mushrooms, right? I have probably about 5 or 6 herbs in here. And again, I'm not throwing the whole kitchen sink in, but also there's fat in here. And that's what sustains you. That's what buffers that caffeine, right? Everyone's heard of probably bulletproof coffee and all that, right? Mm-hmm. Where you're putting butter in or coconut oil or whatever oil that you enjoy. Again, don't put seed oils or anything like that. But that's what helps buffer the caffeine. This is what helps buffer the herbs. And so it's more satiating. In other words, I have this is a meal. That's what's called an elixir, right? So there's smoothies, right? You make a smoothie. These are great. Smoothies are great. But you want to add that fat. Add that fat into that thing. Add some coconut butter or some oil even, right? Coconut oil or avocado, right? If you have this smoothie and it's just, I don't know, people are putting, spinach, orange juice, maybe some collagen, maybe this, and they're hungry in an hour, right? Because they're just going through that really quick, right? There's no fat, there's no satiating aspect of it. You have to, that fat is so important. That's why you go to those bone broths, those amino acids, those fatty acids are absolutely amazing. So getting back to your question, where would someone start? Well, there are simple ways to just add herbs to your everyday. I mean, I made donuts the other day, and they are medicinal. They're medicinal donuts. Okay. And again, I don't deep fry them. I just bake them. I have like a little donut mold, right? And I'm using nettle, stinging nettle from my garden, right? If you don't know stinging nettle, if you come across it, you would know it stings you. That's why it stings you. I mean, it stays with you. It's a nice little rash that it gives you, but it's very medicinal. And what they would do, and probably you've heard of this, Donald, is for like arthritis, or if you have, they would take that stinging nettle and they would hit where that was, because it would basically bring the blood vessel, it would bring it to the surface, right? And wake that part of the body up, right? So I am blanching that stinging nettle. I am blanching it really quick. I'm giving it a quick blend to break it up a little bit. And I'm putting it in the batter of these donuts. And so I am really, to me, it's all about pleasure, okay? But not pleasure to a point of where it's, again, what I touched on earlier, late nights with lack of sleep, too much drinking, right? Too much sex, right? Where you're not, taking the time to reset your energy, or taking in the foods that are going to keep you not burning that candle so much. Those daily stressors are that wind that is blowing that candle. And if you're not adapting to it, it is going to melt that candle that much faster. And when you are out of that wax, that candle, that jing, that life force, all right, that is your life. Okay.
Yeah.
And that is it. So it's getting in these herbs that vitalize you, that help you deal with stress. And I'm talking about emotional stress as well. And that's where that Shen, that's what we call Shen disturbance, right? If you have something emotional weighing on your mind, or maybe you need to forgive someone, or you're hanging on to this conversation that's sitting with you, and you're waking up the next day and you're thinking about it and not doing anything about it. And you're waking up the next day and it's weighing on you. That is Shen disturbance. And that is going to affect even just your physical energy and your mental energy as well. Okay. If you have these things kind of hanging on you, either you let them go, or, you face them. Okay. And you move on, and it's a release.
So we're just a few moments over time, and I want to be respectful of everybody's time. Charlie, when I first touched down with you, it's been a couple, 3 years now. Your insights on all of these things has been just phenomenal. And I think you've exemplified it by actually doing it. So sometimes people, they got all the great advice and they're not following their own advice. And you've been consistently on following your own advice. But what I would challenge everybody here is to kind of pay attention. Sometimes we think, oh, we're on that path, or we are paying attention. I challenge myself all the time on this stuff. And I'm not perfect, because yeah, Tony, I'm not giving up my black coffee. Just that's not happening. There's a few things, but
put some ghee in it.
Yeah, but it's pay attention to the quality, pay attention to the energy, and ultimately, are you shining bright? And if you're not, if you're kind of feeling that, there's all kinds of stuff out there, right, that are going on that we need to pay attention to. But this is crucial for everything. The other thing that I would challenge you, because like Terry, a few of the others, Maricel, that are dealing with other aspects of this, you guys should be getting together and have a conversation. I'm going to encourage you all to reach out to each other if you want me to facilitate, what those connection points are, because you see, it's better to walk into a dark alley with a group of people, right, as opposed to walking in by yourself. So I think we can get there further. Terry, we've had Terry speak on stuff and things like that. And I think we need to have some more conversations around this. You can't talk about this stuff too much. That makes sense. And it's not far off from business success and marketing and sales success. This all plays into it, my friends. And at the beginning, Charlie talked about the grounding part. I've been doing that for the minute I found out about it. It's been over a decade. It's, I grew up that way just naturally, but once I feel like, oh, that was it. I mean, these shoes come off as fast as they can, as often as they can.
And even in the winter. Okay. I challenge you to even do it in the winter.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go walk out in the snow. Again, I do cold plunge. Again, do I want to do it? No. I don't want to do it. But it is absolutely amazing. And of course, earlier in the day is when you want to do that, right? Yep. And again, health doesn't have to be suffering. I'm not trying to take away your carrot cake, right? I'm not. I will still make carrot cake, but guess what? The ingredients in it are going to serve me. They're not going to, as soon as I get it into me, work against me.
Bingo.
Right?
Bingo. Okay, my friends, until next week. And there again, thank you very much, Charlie.
Yeah, so good to speak with you guys. And again, thanks so much. I've watched a lot of the recordings and I really appreciate the information a lot of you have shared as well.